Hello and welcome to the Rank and Report football show from Washington, D.C. to London, England. I am your host, Adam Booker, and I'm joined, as I always am, by Mr. Charlie Gordon. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm wonderful, mate. Feeling wonderful. Especially because the new intro, the new look that the channel's got going on at the moment. Everybody watching. Adam's been working his fingers to the bone, getting us looking spick and span. And I think it's looking pretty good, mate. I think you did a pretty good job there.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I spent all day yesterday giving us a little facelift. I got a haircut myself, so I figured I should clean the show up a little bit. But yeah, I'm good. And I'm happy to be back doing this transfer video as well because January starts to get a little panicky for some clubs. And
mate, we need to bring some life to this absolutely dreadful January transfer window that we're witnessing at the moment. I've just been thinking. Back in the day, I used to be sat watching Sky Sports News, which is what we have in the UK. Just, the sports news channel begging for the Man City correspondent to show up, saying, they're linked with someone on deadline day or something or other like that. This has honestly been the most dreadful deadline day. Well, not deadline day, sorry. The most dreadful January transfer window I can ever remember. It used to be a massive event for football fans, but this year's been a bit of a nothing event. Do you not think?
yeah, no, I know. I miss the days of Peter Odemwingie climbing in the window at where was it QPR that he was trying to sneak into, and Roy Hodgson sticking his head out the window on the way out of the training ground. Those days need to come back.
Yeah, they do. I remember. Yeah, the one that sticks out to me. We were after. This proves it was a long, long time ago. Man City were after Roque Santa Cruz January transfer window a long time ago. And I don't think we got him in the end. But yeah, I was just a little kid kind of willing them to do it, willing them to carry out the business. But yeah, as we say, it's been very dreadful. So me and Adam are here. We're gonna try and inject some stuff that we would like to happen. Stuff that on the balance of probabilities isn't going to happen. But, we're going to do our best to put some jazziness into this January.
Yeah, we're going to kind of play football manager a little bit here, but I think in realistic terms. So we're going to talk about some realistic and smart transfers that some big clubs could make to boost their chances of whatever they're trying to accomplish this season. So, we're not going to say Leo Messi needs to go to Arsenal or whatever, but we're going to talk about some transfers that aren't necessarily linked in the real world, but that could be and would be great for both the buying and selling club. So I've figured out two for myself. Charlie's got two for himself, and then we're going to talk about one that we discussed together. I'm going to just jump straight in, Charlie, if that's all right with you. Got an absolute worldie off the bat here, and that is Diego Costa to Inter Milan. Now, I think this would be a great fit for everybody involved here, because if you look at Inter Milan, without Romelu Lukaku up front, they are very empty, very lightweight going forward in attack. Antonio Conte loves that 1-2 punch of having a small, shifty forward mixed with a big, brutal, direct forward, and they don't have a backup for Lukaku. So when he's on the bench, injured, whatever, getting a rest, then they're pretty lifeless in attack. And from the Diego Costa point of view, he's an experienced guy. He fits the bill of them signing anybody that is over 30 years old and has won a title in another country. Inter Milan try and sign them. But he's big. He's a direct forward. And, you're not going to get 90 minutes of 38 games a season out of him. So I think it's a perfect fit that he can come in and spell Lukaku.
And there's the very obvious Conte link there as well from Costa's time at Chelsea. I might be talking rubbish here, but I thought Conte was the manager while Costa was firing on all cylinders at Chelsea.
Yeah, it was a season where they played like a 4-5-1 all year and just dinked the ball up to Costa and let him work his magic.
And Costa was absolutely stupendous in that season. His goal-scoring form was unbelievable. And I think he's recently become a free agent, hasn't he, Costa?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, so he's recently cancelled his contract.
Yeah, so he's just out and about. It makes a lot of sense, really, for Conte to kind of seek that reunion. And yeah, I think it would be a good deal, but it all depends really on whether you can motivate Costa to really put in the performances for you. Because Costa, I could be wrong, but Costa doesn't strike me as that kind of guy who loves football, lives and breathes it. He's going to leave everything out there on the pitch every single time. I'm not saying he doesn't care, because everyone's seen he is quite an emotional player. He picks up red cards, he gets angry at the opposition and stuff like that. But I feel like sometimes his emotions kind of need to be channeled in the right way. And, you know, if you're going to bet your life on it, probably Conte would be the one to do that because he's done it before. So, but, you know, it depends where Costa's mindset is at the moment for me.
Yeah, I think when I look at this on the surface, the thing for me is there's no risk involved, really, because you're not spending any money on him. You get him for free, sign him up for, you know, just a half-season contract or whatever. Gives you that one little boost towards this title race that they're in. And yeah, I just don't really see a downside to it unless he comes in and is, you know, a cancer in the dressing room or whatever. But I can't really see that happening because he's going to come into a dressing room full of other experienced players and guys that have been there and done that. So I don't know. This feels like it would be a match made in heaven for both sides.
Yeah, I agree with you, Adam. We're in agreement. It's a good transfer.
Right.
Should we move on?
Yeah. Go ahead, Charlie.
Okay. Here's my first proposition. I can't remember. We've picked one joint one. Okay, right. Let me do one of mine on my own first. And I'm actually going to start with the little guys. The guys that we are never going to talk about. Well, you know, I say never, but especially in our European rankings videos, we're not going to be talking about these guys very often. But fans of the Premier League will know that Sheffield United are struggling really, really badly. Just to throw some stats at you, they've scored 10 goals in 19 games in the Premier League. So that's around about 0.5 goals a game. So it's not really rocket science to point out that Sheffield United need a striker really, really badly. They're a lot of points adrift from safety, stranded at the bottom of the table. And let's be realistic about this. Sheffield United, they've not got a big budget. They've not got a lot of pull about them because they're losing every game and they're bottom of the Premier League. So they need to get someone who can bag them a lot of goals, potentially, but also someone who's a player who's kind of got nothing to lose because, you know, Sheffield United isn't the most enticing option for a lot of players at the moment. So with all that in mind, my proposition is Daniel Sturridge. So a lot of you may be thinking, where did he go? You know, Daniel Sturridge kind of disappeared off the face of the earth a few years ago. He actually went and had a little spell in Turkey, Sturridge. He scored 7 goals in 16 games for Trabzonspor. About a year ago, but then he got done for betting violations in March 2020. He got banned for that. He's now back from the ban. So essentially, this is a gamble, Adam. It's a gamble, but from what I've seen of Sturridge before, I know that Sturridge can get a ton of goals. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly a match winner type player. I remember, you know, you think back to I believe it was the season they won the title, so last season, or maybe the season before. When he scored that absolute screamer at Stamford Bridge in like the 93rd minute to win the game. You know, you think back to his early days at Liverpool linking up with Luis Suarez, and they were an absolute joy to watch under Brendan Rodgers. So anyone who watches and has watched English football knows there's a player in there. Obviously, the issue is keeping him fit and getting that player out of him. But if Sheffield United can get him on a decent, you know, for a decent fee, then what do you have to lose when you're sitting bottom of the table?
Yeah, we should be free, Adam, because he's not got a club at the moment. He's not attached to Trabzonspor at the moment. So
right, okay.
He should be a free agent. Obviously, his wages are a different issue altogether. But so the only gamble really is paying his wage costs. And then obviously from past experience, people kind of know that there's a decent chance that he's not going to be fit every single game because injuries have just absolutely plagued his career. He's only played 30 games in a season twice in his whole career. But from what we've seen of him when he was firing, honestly, I think Daniel Sturridge is one of the most ruthless finishers in the Premier League era. Honestly, I think his finishing ability is that good. He's a City youth product. But I just think Sheffield United, with the position they're in at the moment, they need to take a gamble. They can't play it safe. You know, they played it safe by keeping Chris Wilder in the job. It's impossible to get a guaranteed goal scorer in at the moment because they'll need 40 or 50 million pounds to do it, and it's just not realistic. So They need a gamble that's going to come off. And my guy for that is Daniel Sturridge. And I hope it happens. I love Sturridge, and I'd love to see him back in the Premier League firing again.
Yeah, it would be entertaining at the very least. But yeah, I like Daniel Sturridge of Sheffield United. All right, moving on. I'm going to do my last transfer of mine, and that is a big one. I'm hoping that I'm bringing a new player to everyone's mind right now, because he's one of my hipster players, but he's an absolute beast, and that is Teun Koopmeiners to Borussia Dortmund. If you don't know who Teun Koopmeiners is, I highly recommend going on YouTube and looking up highlights of his. He is an absolute beast. He's a center defensive mid, center back hybrid, but he's got an incredible goal scoring record as well. He's a big guy. When you look at him, he looks like this brutal, like, kick at your feet all game kind of center back, but he is an elegant player. He plays for AZ Alkmaar in the Dutch league, and I watched a lot of them this year because they were in a Europa League group with Napoli and Real Sociedad, two teams that we've talked a lot about on our power ranking show. And you know, at the start of a game when they'll just kind of lob the ball into the corner just to kind of get the game flowing. So both games against Sociedad and Napoli, he did that, and both kicks into the corner led to a goal-scoring chance. So he's taking the opening kick of the game, pinging it into the corner, and it's landing on someone's foot, and it's a goal-scoring chance. He's got unbelievable passing range. He's a wicked free kick taker. And look, from the Dortmund point of view, I think this is a perfect fit because they love these young, saleable assets. Axel Witsel has just gone down with a season-ending Achilles injury. Over the weekend yesterday against Leverkusen, they played Jude Bellingham and Thomas Delaney in a midfield too, and I don't know, it was just a bit porous. Leverkusen cut shapes into that team, so they need somebody big and brutal in there, but Dortmund love elegant players, they love young players. I don't know, I think this is a perfect fit, Charlie.
Yeah, don't be ashamed, everyone, because I did not have a clue who this guy was either. When Adam told me about this guy last night, I had to give him a quick Google, I'll be honest. Some of you will have heard of him, though. Obviously, fans of the Eredivisie, he must be quite a prominent player in the Eredivisie at the moment. I think he's early 20s. And I just love these kind of freaks of nature. I love it when a freak of nature comes along. Like this guy, CDM, or centre-back, has scored 29 goals in 79 league games for AZ Alkmaar, which is just weird. It's genuinely weird. It's like those players that you read about in the past, like Lothar Matthäus, who scored tons of goals from centre defensive mid, like Franz Beckenbauer, who scored loads of goals. Ronald Koeman I just don't understand. He scored like 250 goals from centre-back. And I kind of thought those players were going out of fashion, or it just wasn't possible in this day and age. But you know, this guy seems to have come along, and he must. I'll admit, Adam, I don't know much about him, but his record speaks for itself. He must have an unbelievable eye for goal to be playing that deep and just keep popping up in the right spaces and finding the back of the net. So, very interesting prospect from what we know about him so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a guy that I think no matter what was going to end up at a big European club in the next 12 to 18 months, but I think he would fill a big hole in that Dortmund midfield. So I think it's a perfect fit all around.
Yeah. How much is would Dortmund have to shell out for him?
So Transfer Market says he's valued at about £12 million, but I would imagine that he could go for between 20 and 25 million. If he was playing in a big, top 5 league, then this guy should be going for like 50 million at least. He's that good, and at such a young age to be racking up the numbers like that, then he's going to have a huge price tag on him. But I would say 20, 25 million would be a good fit, and Dortmund 3 or 4 years could sell him on for triple that. So
yeah, no, that's the problem with the Eredivisie is people's goal scoring exploits. You do have to take them with a pinch of salt sometimes. It's only when they go to a top European league that you really kind of realise whether they've got it or not. But yeah, one to watch out for, definitely. For me, I'm going to move on to RB Leipzig, who, as we've said again and again this season, they need a striker because we're just not satisfied. I like Leipzig. I like Nagelsmann, the manager. I like the football that they play, but for goodness sake, they've just not got that guy up top that they need. They've been fiddling around with Forsberg up there, who's not really a striker by trade. They've been playing Yusuf Poulsen up front, who's been with them since they were in the third division, and sometimes, to be honest, his performances make that a little bit obvious, even though that sounds quite harsh. And they got Sorloth on the bench, who's not been given a ton of playing time since he came in. So basically, they need a striker that can smash goals in and also bring in the other creative players around them, such as Forsberg, Dani Olmo, Angelino, and Dominic Szoboszlai, who they've just brought in, which is a fantastic signing, who we have talked about before as well. And so, you know, with all these things in mind, I went to look at who could possibly be available and in the Leipzig kind of mould-ish. And I came up with two names. One of them was Luis Muriel, who plays for Atalanta. Obviously, he's having a good season, technically good player, 13 goals in 20 games. But I think with Papu Gomez leaving Atalanta, you know, they're unlikely to let another of their star attackers leave. So I kind of wrote him off. But the final name that I ended up on was Andrea Belotti. Kind of a player that I think a lot of people have forgotten about in recent years. Most clubs were after him a few years ago when he scored 28 goals in 38 games for Torino. And I thought his form must have dropped drastically, but that's not really the case. He's got 10 goals in 20 games this season for a Torino side that are way down in 18th in Serie A, in the relegation zone. And on top of this, his contract runs until this summer. So there is a decent chance, you know, either they're going to let Belotti go for free in the summer, or they might want to cash in on him this January. Whether they're going to do that with them in relegation trouble, who knows? But either way, the point is, Belotti is available. He's a ruthless goal scorer. You don't see many Italians go to the Bundesliga, but on paper at least, Adam, I reckon this transfer, you know, could have some legs to it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a player that I've always highly rated, and RB Leipzig needing a center forward is something we've been talking about for months and months now. I mean, if you think back to a few seasons ago, like you mentioned, Belotti was linked to United, to Liverpool, to Chelsea. I mean, all the big clubs around England and around Europe were in for this guy. At the time, Torino were a mid-table to fighting for Europa League type club. They're in a bit of a relegation scrap now, so I think they do need to cash in on him, and he's an unbelievable talent. And from a Leipzig side, they brought in Sorloth, hasn't really done it. Most of the year they've played a false nine. You know, they've played Sabitzer and their Emil Forsberg, guys like that, you know, they're good technical players, but they're not going to get it done, especially in a league where you're competing with Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. So I think this is a perfect fit. He's a really talented player. He's only 26 years old. You know, he's valued at around £36 million. We know that Leipzig have that kind of money. So yeah, I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I did hesitate to put this one down because naturally my instinct says that you think of an RB Leipzig attacker and they have to be really technically gifted, good dribbling, little intricate passes. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like, Yusuf Poulsen isn't that kind of player. Timo Werner has got a lot of qualities about him, but he's not really that kind of player either. So I think with all the creative influence around that attacking line, maybe what would benefit the most is just a complete ruthless goal scorer, left or right foot, doesn't matter. And I'd like to see Belotti go to a club, you know, where he's going to have more chances created for him. And surely he's going to want Champions League football. Like, he is that calibre of player where he could play Champions League. And he's been at Torino a long time, but, you know, it's just not realistic that they're going to get in the Champions League. So something is going to happen with Belotti in the next 6 months, because I don't think he'll sign a new contract at Torino, you know, if he wants to progress his career. Whether he goes to Leipzig, I'd say the chances are remote, but, you know, if I was their director of football, that's what I'd be telling Mr. Nagelsmann.
I mean, when you look around the rest of Serie A, there's not many big clubs that need a striker. You know, AC Milan just got Mandzukic in. Inter Milan obviously have got Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez and maybe Diego Costa in the next couple days if the prophecy comes true. But yeah, I don't really see where he could necessarily go in Italy, so maybe he does have to look outside of Serie A to be somebody that's leading the line at a big club. But yeah, moving on to our final transfer. It's a big one. And it's Martin Odegaard of Real Madrid to Arsenal. And this is one that Charlie and I came up with together, Charlie, I'll let you go first. Why would this be such a perfect fit for Odegaard? And I think we're maybe talking about a loan here to move over to North London.
Yeah, I think it's not just perfect for Odegaard, it's perfect for both parties. I think the blindingly obvious thing is that Arsenal need an attacking midfielder. At the moment, they've got Emile Smith-Rowe playing in that number 10 role. They're playing a 4-2-3-1 at the moment with Smith-Rowe filling in that space. I like Smith-Rowe. People generally do like Smith-Rowe. But to put all your trust, a Champions League chasing side, to put all your trust in a 20-year-old that was on loan at Huddersfield last season, you're really kind of clutching at straws there. And I'll reiterate, I do like Smith-Rowe. So they need someone of a higher calibre to fit in that number 10 role. Martin Odegaard, to put it bluntly, needs minutes of football. You can expand on that, Adam. He's in desperate need of minutes of football, Martin Odegaard, and I think Arsenal can give that to him.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare last season where he was on loan at Real Sociedad, and he was a key player in that Sociedad team that ended up in a Europa League spot. Last season, for Sociedad, he made 31 appearances in La Liga, played about 2,500 minutes of league time. This season, he's come back to Real Madrid. Seems like after a breakout year at Sociedad, maybe Zidane would trust Odegaard and give him the keys to that midfield and let him be that creative spark. He's made 7 appearances and played about 230 minutes of league time. But look, last season he had 4 goals, 6 assists. I don't know, it just feels like a player that, if given the chance, would really, really impress Zidane, but he's just not giving him the chance. And Arsenal are in desperate need of creative presence. I mean, obviously, although he hasn't played in the last 2 years, Mesut Ozil is out the door. So there's your one kind of real creative player that you could potentially throw in the team if you desperately needed it. And I think they desperately need it. They're 12th in the Premier League for goals scored. So Aubameyang isn't doing it. And I think partly it's because he doesn't really have any creative help around him, and it can't all be on his shoulders. So I think it's another perfect fit.
Yeah, it's not the lack of goals isn't Aubameyang's fault, because we've seen that Aubameyang can absolutely lash in the goals. Before this, he's having a poor season this season, but before this season, he'd scored 70 goals in 109 games for Arsenal, which is a stupid return for any striker. And it's really frustrating with Odegaard, because whenever he has been given the chance at other clubs, at Vitesse, at Sociedad, he has impressed. So it's not even like, this guy has a chance at impressing Zidane. This guy should have already impressed Zidane. So yeah, I like him to Arsenal very much. But I think an attacking mid to Arsenal is something that is being heavily linked, throughout this transfer window. And some of the other names that have been banded around are Emiliano Buendia of Norwich. Apparently they're holding out for 50 million for him. A championship player, which it made my eyes water a little bit, that one. That seems a bit steep. He's a good player, he creates a lot of chances, but that does seem steep. Julian Brandt is a name that I've seen banded about, which also makes a lot of sense, but I didn't want to steal another journalist's ideas. I think Jack Grealish would be kind of a dream move for Arsenal fans, and it does work in a lot of ways. But, you're looking at 100 million plus for a player of Grealish's quality. So, with all that being said, I like Odegaard. And everyone I've told this move to says that they like it too, for every reason. So, I don't know. This needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I can't see Arsenal dropping 50 million on Buendia. I can't see them being able to afford Grealish at all. I think Real Madrid still have Odegaard in their future plans. I think, the dream is probably him and Camavinga in a midfield at some point. So I think a loan would be a perfect fit. I don't even think there would necessarily be an option to buy. But look, Arsenal love stealing midfielders from Real Madrid. Mesut Ozil came over. Dani Ceballos came over from Madrid. So it fits a pattern. But yeah, I think it's a great fit.